This is the Extended Gamut Podcast, the podcast for printing professionals. As a reminder, we explore trending topics in the print industry, we meet with industry experts, and we take your questions. But we've found something new to talk about, so stay tuned to the Extended Gamut Podcast. Well, here we are, Andy. We've learned a few things. The less we prepare, the more the audience enjoys the podcast. Yeah. It's almost like the less we talk about actual printing, the more people enjoy the podcast.
Exactly.
What are we actually doing here?
I don't know. Maybe we start a new podcast.
The gamut is getting extended even further.
Yeah. Into bourbon, golf, paddle, tennis,
pickleball,
finger injuries.
Can you imagine how many people are going to be playing pickleball by the end of 2024? I mean, just think about when it starts getting warm in the Midwest again. They can't build enough courts. All right. So I've gotten my pickleball comment into the podcast early. Today's podcast, what are we going to talk about today, Andrew?
Well, we just got back from Printing United. So we thought we'd talk about Printing United. Atlanta.
Okay. My list was Halloween candy, costumes, fantasy football, haunted houses.
Okay.
But it sounds like
your list sounds like more fun.
All right. Let's start with Printing United. We were in Atlanta, Georgia.
Just let that sit.
I feel like if you love Atlanta, live in Atlanta, have any sort of affection for Atlanta, this is probably the time to stop listening to this podcast.
Tune out now.
This is it. Just skip to the next episode.
If you haven't listened to episode, what are we on? I think go to episode
17.
13,
yeah.
14. There's one with Max Derrick, a color scientist for Onyx.
Yes.
Go listen to that one.
Yeah. Atlanta, the airport.
Not good.
Not good. Security is handled in one area for the entire airport, and then they distribute you down to your terminals versus like multiple security lines. It's the worst security experience that you've had. And you also slide your license in. They want to take a picture. They're trying to automate the whole thing. So then it's just a bunch of people standing around.
And then so you finally slide your license in and you get your picture. Then you go to the bags and they automate that too, right? Where they push the bins to you. Well, it's actually worse. Everyone's standing there waiting for the robots to send them the bins.
I got yelled at. I made a mistake. There's 2 rows of the bins. I thought once you put it into the robot's hands, it's fine. You have to push it to the back. Well, then I started to go through security.
They're like, the robots can do a lot, but they can't push this bin 1 foot.
Not at all.
Can't expect too much out of them.
But we have some people we travel with that like to get to the airport 3 to 4 hours ahead of time. People that typically don't have any sense of urgency towards the things I want them to have a sense of urgency towards. So they are very urgent about that. So the security line was a breeze because we were there 3 days ahead of time. We actually went
You checked in?
Before we were able to check in.
Yeah.
We had to wait to check in.
Yeah, so we got to Atlanta, and it turns out the airport was the highlight.
Yes.
It was all downhill from there.
It didn't get much better. The drivers.
They're insane.
We started doing Uber drivers, and it was scary.
Yeah, I think they've sat in enough traffic. They're like, this is so terrible. I don't care if I die. I'm going to drive how I want to drive.
Yeah. The street our hotel was on, it was like, I think it is now known for the most cars valued under $10,000 driving twice the speed limit for 4 consecutive days.
Yeah.
People were going 50 to 60 miles an hour, and we were just like, this is...
They go 50 or 60 so that they can stop 20 feet later at the stoplight. Like they don't have, like, you remember back in the day there was hypermilers. Do you remember that trend? These people who, so back in the day,
how old are you?
This is probably 20 years ago or whatever, when gas was super expensive, and like now we're just used to it. But this is like, And there was this trend where people would try to use as little gas and brake as possible. So they would take corners at like 40 miles an hour because they didn't want to touch the brake because you lose your momentum. And so anyways, these people, they don't care about their gas mileage.
No.
They're anti-hypermilers. They'll floor it right into a stoplight, which is really dangerous when you're walking around. We almost saw a lady get killed.
We did. She screamed. It scared me a little bit.
She
I almost
screamed. Yeah. Coming around the corner and just could have lost her.
It's true. Right when I landed, we left the airport. As we were driving, all of a sudden there's just a traffic jam. We look ahead. It's dark clouds. And we're like, what's going on? Is there a storm? And then we started to smell like it's smoke. And sure enough, there was a car on fire. We saw an actual car on fire. Firemen had a hose. They were spraying the car. I mean, this was like, that was the start. And I was like, here we go. But I had a really nice ride back to the airport. But on the way back, there was an accident the other direction, and some people were not having a good day. So
some days the fire's in your lane, some days it's in the opposite lane.
Yeah. We did visit a couple cool places. We went to a putt shack. That was fun.
Yeah, highly recommend. I don't play a lot of putt, but I was surprised I beat everyone.
Yeah.
But it was good.
We had a highly contested finale.
Congrats to Bobby.
Yes. One of our sales reps, Bobby, ended up.
Pulled it out in the end.
He just pulled it out and won it. So that was Atlanta. We were talking about why Atlanta. Why did they choose Atlanta? Next year is in Las Vegas, September 10th through the 12th. And the main conclusion is two things. Hotel capacity plays a huge role in where they can do shows. They need enough rooms available, and that's why they can't go to certain cities because they don't have enough capacity to house 20 to 30,000 people. And then the second is ease of access to an airport. As much as we've talked about the airport, it is a hub. Once they built it out and it became an international hub when the Olympics came in the 90s. And then there's a Delta hub there. So there's like, you can get there nonstop internationally and
world's
nationally.
Busiest airport, I think.
Yeah.
They make a lot of people very miserable all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they go between Atlanta, New Orleans, and Orlando.
I liked when they did Dallas, besides ending up in the hospital.
Yeah.
That was a good location.
And one episode we will talk about Andy's scooter accident in which his buddy had to take him to the urgent care.
Walking up to the customers walking up to the booth like, hey, do you get any scooters this trip? It's humiliating.
It's amazing how many people actually need a parent with them at all times. And when that parent isn't there, I become that parent for many people. So.
Yeah. That day you were my father.
All right. What did we see at the show? We went to the show. They're saying it was more highly attended than the previous show. And we did an episode on that a while ago.
That was Vegas, right?
Which was saying it was, in the 25 to 35,000 attendee list, people that actually attended.
It felt like as many attendees as we've ever had.
I wonder how they count the number of attendees.
They just I don't know. It's probably by registration, and then do they scan you on the way in?
Well, when they do a golf event and they say how many attendees attended a golf event, so let's say the Waste Management Open in Phoenix, they say it's like the highest attendee. They take the attendance from Thursday plus Friday plus Saturday plus Sunday, and then they say this many 100,000 people.
But they're not
came.
unique. Yeah.
And sometimes it is because sometimes you get a 4-day pass, sometimes you get a 1-day pass. So are they counting unique people, or are they saying on Wednesday, this is how many we scanned? Thursday, Friday? I wonder. Maybe that's something we could look into.
All right, for next episode.
Yeah, and so hook. It's going to keep people coming back.
There's going to be a lot of new subscribers. Yeah.
All right. So what do we see? Anything new?
For one, I saw a lot of customers.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really I mean, that's what I get out of the shows is being able to hear from customers, talk about what they're seeing, what are new things they're products they're looking to launch, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So from that perspective, I thought it was great because it was it was a lot of attendees, compared with, let's say, ISA in April, a lot more, of my customers were at this show. So I thought better attendance from that regard. As far as products, I mean, we saw a ton of DTF film everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of DTF. If you thought it was a fad back in 2021, it is not. It is everywhere.
Just breathing in that powder everywhere you went.
Everyone, yeah. I saw some, a lot of, I'm just going to leave that joke be.
All right.
We don't need to get canceled. We've got tens of subscribers. That would be very disappointed.
Oh my goodness. I was just saying there was a lot of powder and very few masks. So I don't know what the future of that is, but.
Yeah. Yeah, our tech was calling it DTL, direct to lungs.
Oh, geez.
He thought that was a pretty good joke.
Funny. So new stuff we saw. Lots of DTF. UV printing is expanding. EPSON had some previews of a couple new desktop UV printers that sit, in that they say under 10 for one, under 20 for the other market. And then there's, Mamaki, Roland, they have a desktop unit that's, priced in that 40 to 80,000. And then you have your flatbed UV. I mean, so there's a pretty wide variety of UV flatbed, print on anything type things.
I thought this was the first show where I saw DTUV, so film, UV transfer film. And there was a decent amount of that going on. And the things that make DTF, using a DTG printer for film transfers, the things that make that attractive, a lot of the same scenarios and applications apply for DTUV. So we'll see where that heads. But basically printing to a film rather than directly to a substrate,
mm-hmm.
and using that film to apply to another film as kind of a mask, and then to it, round objects, things that would be hard to print to, thicker objects that can't fit underneath a UV printer. So that was something that caught my eye was that appears to be a new product that's picking up some steam.
It'll be interesting if someone comes out with all right, you have DTG and then you have DTF, but then if you compare DTF to the UV transfer process, when is it, when do you want to use one versus the other? I feel like the UV is you're affixing things to a more rigid substrate, or around something, whereas the DTF, it's more clothing, and primarily polyester clothing is where people are really enjoying.
Yep. Anything where you need that stretch, I think, is where because it is at its, what it's made of is DTG ink, which has that elastic. Yeah. Yeah. So that's on the transfer side of things. Epson also had a desktop DTG printer that'll be priced under 10 grand coming out next year. Sitting below the F3070 to the F2270 to whatever this new desktop printer will be called. Yeah, it's interesting to have Epson launch, or at least preview, printers without names. It's like we've never seen that. And I was proud of them for putting something out there that wasn't totally buttoned up just yet and didn't have everything, letting people see it and get feedback. And the feedback we heard was all, I thought, really good. Yeah. You're proud of them. You should tell them. It's pat on the back. Pat on the back. Yeah. They had a cool booth. Their booth actually got a lot of recognition. I was reading some articles on the most unique things and booths, and their booth was highlighted as one of the booths that had been completely revamped, and they had a little gaming center and Game On. Yep. So it was cool. Cool design, good coffee. Yeah. Always good coffee. On the other side of things, we've talked about the new Latex 630 from HP. So that made its debut at Printing United. And what we were printing on at the show that was kind of catching a lot of eyes, and it was on the 630W, was Aurora's new natural cotton canvas. which I thought was kind of cool. So like rather than being bleached white, allowing the cotton fibers and the, seeds or whatever to kind of be visible, where it gives it that antique kind of natural look. And we were printing some antique maps on it and different, what are those called where it has like a flower and it's like scientific and it shows, I don't know, horticulture something. I'm really grasping. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Burlap sack.
Yeah. I'm saying the file we printed though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was similar to a burlap sack. I don't think Aurora's going to be super happy that you're.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a little. There's more to it than that. Like the expression.
But I'm trying to have people that are listening. How do you visualize what coloring are we talking about for this canvas?
Yeah. Burlap color.
Yeah, burlap.
Yeah.
Is that a color of like a crayon, a Crayola crayon? Hand me the burlap, not the brown. Give me the burlap.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So we don't even have pricing on that product just yet. It's brand new as well. But I thought, with the white ink on the latex, that natural color, that was something that a number of customers stopped to look at.
Yeah.
And then you see the whole show and you realize how little you actually know about printing and how much there is that is just beyond the realm of what we deal with every day. It's just a huge industry.
Right.
And we feel like we have a good understanding of our slice, our niche, but there's just so much more that's out there. So a show like that, it's good. You got to walk a little bit. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, there were sections of the show where you're just like, I've literally never heard of any of these companies, and these are large organizations selling printing. And you have the press side of things, you have the screen side of things, and then you have the digital. I mean, so there's just there's a lot of people out there involved in print.
Yeah. Go figure. Do we want to get into your Halloween candy or?
Sure. So we saw the show. I think if someone asked me how was the show or what was the overall sentiment of the show, I would say cautiously observant. That would be the two words I would use. I feel like it matched maybe where the current market is at. There was a lot of people. It was highly attended, I felt. We got to talk to a lot of customers, but there was still that sense of people are just looking and just trying to get a sense for what's really going on. We're coming into an election year. How is the economy going to play a role? What investments are they going to make? So they're like just looking, asking questions, but it didn't seem like there was a bunch of people maybe like a year ago that were like, all right, I got money to spend. What am I going to buy?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not knocking anyone for that. I think that was the general sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I think more talks around substrates and applications and products and less around like, I need new hardware to meet this new need or get into this new market from the show floor.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite meal in Atlanta?
Favorite meal? We ate at some pretty cool places. So one shout out was a place called Port Calvin's. I think that was your favorite.
That was my favorite. Yeah, we had a vendor who was nice enough to take us out there, and that was like a Asian fusion, more Thai.
Fried.
A lot of fried, but good. Not I thought it was delicious.
It was good. So that was good. We went to a place called Politan Row, which was almost like if you went to a place and had a bunch of food trucks, but you're like inside and there's a bar in the middle, and then there's these little like pop-up restaurants all throughout.
Food hall, I think, is what they call it. Food hall.
So that was cool. I know we were rough on Atlanta, but the nice thing about it was you didn't have to wait for service. So you could go up there, order your thing, then go to the bar, get something to drink, go back and sit, and your food is ready, and you're not like going through this 3-hour process of ordering and waiting for a meal. So we were able to get in, get out within an hour and 15 minutes, and we had a pretty big group. So that was like a cool experience.
It's almost like the Uber drivers are in such a rush, but then once you get to wherever you're going, all the rushing stops.
Yeah.
There's no urgency. It's like they need to like switch jobs.
Yeah. But we were in Spain, and it was sort of like that, but it was for a different reason. I just feel like that culturally, it took some adjusting just to like the pace.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like, yeah, you have this pace on the outside where you're trying to just survive and get to where you're going. And then the pace on the inside is
Different.
It's next level.
Next level.
All right, let's wrap this up with I have 3 questions about it's fall time, Halloween. Here we go.
I don't like these off the cuff questions.
You can do it. You can handle it. Halloween candy. Do you have a favorite? Your kids come home, they got
I love Butterfingers. The taste of Butterfingers. I hate what they do to your teeth where they just get stuck in there.
Yeah.
So if I could, like, if there's a Butterfinger shake somewhere, I love that.
Culver's Butterfinger.
Because you get all the
mixer
best parts of the Butterfinger, but without the candies jamming in your teeth.
Interesting. Is Bart Simpson the poster boy for Butterfinger?
I think, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I like anything chocolatey, caramely. I don't like hard candy.
Whoppers?
They're okay. How about you?
I'm not a big treats sort of person, but when I do, I'm into the chocolate peanut butter combination.
Similar.
So, but I do like a good piece of toffee, but that's not really Halloween candy.
We send out toffee to customers at the end of the year.
There you go.
So if you're listening to this podcast, if you want to become a customer, you might get some toffee.
There you go. All right, question 2, dressing up. Are you into dressing up in costumes, or do you just sort of...
It's not my favorite.
No.
I'll do it if it's everyone's doing it. I'll succumb to peer pressure, but I don't enjoy it like you.
Yeah.
Like you live for it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I feel like you're really missing out.
Mm-hmm.
You should dress up as a Butterfinger bar.
That would be lame.
We can make it fun.
Why don't you go through a couple of your favorite costumes you've done?
I think when I did Andy Everding going to the hospital after a scooter accident, that was one of my favorite ones, just sitting at his desk waiting for him to arrive.
You know who never did that? My father.
No.
He
didn't.
A father wouldn't do that to his son.
I like being Dog the Bounty Hunter. That was a fun
good
one.
I can only remember the ones that don't reflect great on your character, so I won't say those ones.
I was Borat once. I was a Chilean miner right after they got rescued.
That was the one.
I thought it was a celebration that they got rescued.
Okay.
I actually bought a car dressed as a Chilean miner that year. And I walked into the dealership and they were like, I don't know. And I was like, no, seriously, I'm going to buy this car. And they were like, I don't know. I was Michael Jackson right after he died. I thought maybe I could give people hope that he hadn't died. No.
Yeah, no. Let's go to the next question.
All right. Haunted houses. There's a new haunted house by our house. And I drive by it. And I think to myself, I could never take my kids here. They would never go to sleep. They would be terrified. So then I was thinking, who is like the target demographic for haunted houses?
I think you and I raise our kids differently than some. I think some, like, they're good with their kids being terrified. And they watch more scary. Like my kids, they watch Finding Nemo and they're scared. But they haven't been desensitized in the same way that other kids might have. So I think that I think anywhere from like 10 to 22 is their sweet spot.
Is their sweet spot?
All the way through college, I think.
This one by our house is called the Terror Roulette. And you have to sign a waiver. And the waiver it's insane. And they're like saying that if you read it, you're like, what's going to happen in here? And it's like you play roulette and depending on the decisions you make, you get out, you don't. I don't know.
It's like,
have you ever gotten into haunted houses?
No. I've been through one a long time ago. I don't even like horror movies.
Would you like to be in the haunted house? Like you're a character scaring people?
That could be fun.
Yeah. I can see people working in a haunted house that actually hate haunted houses, but as long as they're behind the scenes and they're the ones doing the scaring.
Yeah.
I have someone in the office that goes behind my door if he gets here before me and he tries to scare me just to see me jump. So I have to like approach my office door in a different way every day, like
it's
to
like
see if people are hiding.
Yeah, it's like the subtle prank where you like the prank is almost better when they aren't actively doing the prank because you're just scared all the time.
Exactly.
Waiting for it to happen.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap up this episode. We have some to-dos. We're going to figure out how they count attendees for trade shows. And we'll come up with some other things to talk about for our next podcast.
Maybe, so it'll be what, around Thanksgiving time?
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk some fantasy football too. We have a league that we're in at work. Maybe we could talk because around Thanksgiving, football.
I started getting into more sports gambling, Jeff.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe we talk about that too.
Oh my gosh. You have not.
I have.
All right. We're going to record this next podcast in 3 minutes because I need to find out about this. All right. Now I'm interested. Well, that wraps it up for this edition of the Extended Gamut. Hopefully you've learned a few things. You've enjoyed the conversation about Printing United and our musings. Thanks for putting up with us. You can find us on the usual platforms. Let us know if you have topics you want us to discuss. If not, we will continue to just talk about whatever we want to talk about on this podcast. Thanks. Have a great day.